folks, this is all the fruit, and here I have the Beautyberry. It's not hard to see where this one got its name from, right? Ain't she a little beauty? Well, the Beautyberry, Callicarpa, seems to have about 140 different species, and it's quite important to know what species you are dealing with, because a lot of the Asian species at least are horribly bitter. However, I think here we hit the jackpot. We have the American Beautyberry, Callicarpa americana. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a beautyberry specialist, and also I guess that in Europe, where the stuff is used as an ornamental, we don't only have like natural wild species, but probably also cultivars and hybrids or whatever. Well, what's the difference between the American and the Asian beautyberries? Well, usually when you have an edible fruit growing in East Asia, you can be 100% sure that they figured it out and they are using it for food and medicine and other stuff. You can have a lot of edible fruit in Europe and nobody will know that they are edible, because I don't know why. It's not like this just with fruit, it's also with other plant parts, with edibles, whatever. Here in Europe we have a lot of really tasty, perfectly edible things, and we never figured out they're edible. But the Asians have a couple species of Callicarpa in Japan, China and Korea, and there are almost no records of them being edible. There are just a couple records of Callicarpa japonica leaves being used as tea. Why is this so? Well, the fruit of the Asian species seem to be horribly bitter. And so it's said that even birds and deer and stuff, they don't use them all autumn, and they use them only when they are very far into winter, when they are starving and there is nothing else. The fruit remained really nice and colorful for many months. Actually, at this very spot here, in March and April, I could still see fruit with this color. Means that they were probably not very rotten or anything. But yeah, animals seem to eat the Asian species only when they are when there is nothing else left. Seems to be different with the American species. I read a record where it says that squirrels tend to break off a whole branch, carry it to some safe tree, and eat all the fruit. There are also a lot of other interesting uses for this plant. It seems that it has some of the best mosquito repellents which are known, and a lot of, well, at least 3 compounds are being tested for replication for commercial use as mosquito repellent. But it seems it's enough if you rub those leaves on your skin. Actually, some of the records say that the leaves are supposed to be very pungent. No, they are not pungent. They just smell of, yeah, greenery, like crushing any leaf or grass in your hand. The smell gets a little bit stronger once you crush them. I think some of the components oxidize. Yeah, now it's quite a strong smell of crushed or cut grass. But yeah, I don't smell all those horribly smelly components which are supposed to scare away mosquitoes. The leaves seem to be so toxic that you can actually stun fish with them. Also, they are being used for a ton of different medical purposes by the Native Americans. But let's get to the fruit. So this is most probably the American one, Callicarpa americana. Well, if I'm wrong, I guess I'll start yelling and spitting in a second. Well, the fruit are slightly bitter. Not too bitter. Actually, I could imagine eating them out of fantasy survival food, or if they were a real superfood. They are slightly bitter. Also, there is a slight flavor of mushrooms when you eat them. Basically no sweetness. A bit of astringency. The source says when you eat the fresh fruit, the only sensation you have is like of the texture of the seeds. The fruit are supposed to be pretty insipid, pretty tasteless. Other sources say slightly bitter or astringent. Yeah, those are slightly bitter or astringent. One source said that they are really tasty and sweet, but this source said they are not sure what species they are eating. It looks different from all the species they know. They are eating one of them and the fruit are sweet. So here the taste seems to be quite typical for Callicarpa americana. Slightly astringent, slightly bitter, and nothing else. Eating them out of hand, I guess, is, well, not really an option. I mean, it's autumn. There are tons of bigger and better fruit around. Where they excel is making them into jellies and jams. Actually, someone said that in older times, in traditional little like shops where they sold homemade jelly, this was one of the favorite jelly and jam varieties you could find. I wonder why. I mean, the taste is, even if you could remove the slight bitterness and astringency by cooking, I don't see how it could develop some really great taste. Maybe it's the color. I mean, if you manage to retain this color, a lot of fruit and other ingredients change their color once you make them into preserves. But if you manage to retain this beautiful color, I can imagine that people would like this as a jam. It's being said that in the southeastern US, a lot of people, mostly of African and French origin, use them a lot for jellies and jams. That's why this is also called the French mulberry. Well, no. In France, mulberries look very different. Mulberries in France are Moros alba and Moros nigra. This is definitely an American variety, but seems that the French as well as the African immigrants learned how to use this fruit from the Native Americans. So I guess in Europe it could be quite hard to find jams, jellies or other preserves made from this Callicarpa. I really would like to try some. So if you've ever eaten or even made Callicarpa americana jam or jelly, please write it in the comments. Tell me what it tastes like. I'm really curious. Also, stay tuned for a lot more fruit videos from the parks and gardens of Germany. And don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe.